Hi, this is Mark Zamuida with AI Trade Winners. This is a new company that I started with my wife Andrea and business partner Ryan. And we're ready for testing. So it's at a point where we want people to start taking a look at it and get feedback from it. AI Trade Winners is all about picking stocks and knowing when to buy and sell them. And you receive indicators daily on what to do. It's not day trading, it's more swing trading. In swing trading, you usually trade for either days, weeks, or months. Like you can hold on to a stock for a long time. Or you could be out of the stock for a long time. But let's take a look at how this system works. You can go over the webpage, AITradeWinners.com, and I'll just go to the Let's Go, which shows the strategies that you can subscribe to. So right now there are 6 strategies that you can subscribe to. This first one, energy strategy, currently it's made up of 4 stocks. We're going to be adding one more to each one of these strategies and possibly more. So it'll be 5 or more stocks eventually, but right now it's 4. And if you look at this strategy, I'll click Learn More. You can see the 4 companies that you would receive buy and sell signals for. Looking at Marathon Petroleum, we can look at the statistics for it. This top part is the strategy that is determined by AI Trade Winners. The first line is the return, like the return you would get if you invested following the strategy. So for 1 year, it would make about 42%. And you can compare this to the S&P 500 right down here. And the S&P 500 seems to be doing really well this year. If you look at the 3-year return, it's only slightly more. So there were 2 years that were basically flat on the S&P 500. And really in this last year, it's been picking up again. But you can compare the returns from AI Trade Winners directly with it. For a 3-year return, it's 121%. And for a 5-year return, and this is just on Marathon Petroleum, and for a 5-year return, it's 312%. Comparing that with S&P 500, we really beat that. And the return is the total return, as if you started following the strategy 5 years ago or 3 years ago and so on. But often you want to see the compounded annual growth rate. That's what this is. And this is just like the yearly average, or what you would get each year. So for year 1, they're going to be the same. But for 3 years, you'd get 30.3% a year compared to 8% for the S&P 500. And you'd earn 33% compared to 13% for the S&P 500. Normally, over a very long time, the S&P 500 averages about 9 or 10% per year. It's just that in the last 5 years, it's picked up a little bit. So these are probably the most important numbers. Another thing that really shows how the AI Trade Winner strategy shines is this days active. This tells you what percentage of the days, trading days, that you are actually in the stock. So looking at year 1, we were only in the stock 56% of the time. 44% of the time, we were free to invest the money in another stock. So this 41.9% that it made the first year only includes being invested 56% of the time. So this number could be much bigger, depending upon what you do with your money when you're out of the stock. And AI Trade Winners will send you buy and sell signals for this stock. Other metrics that might be important are the drawdown. That's the most that's been lost. Like in the past year, it's gone down 18.3%. Over the last 5 years, the most it's gone down is 28.3%, and you can compare that to the drawdown of the S&P 500, which is 34%. So it beats that. And then if you're interested in using leverage, these are the leverage numbers. Leverage is basically borrowing money and this shows for a 2-to-1 ratio. So if you invest 100,000, your brokerage would give you an extra 100,000. So you're investing 200,000. So you make a much higher return For 1 year, it would be double. And, going out 5 years, it would still be more than the CAGR for a non-leveraged account. But for the most part, the numbers I look at are here. You want to see what the return is over 5 years and compare that to the S&P 500. And you also really want to know your days active. Like you'll know here that 44% of the time you'll be able to invest in another stock and make much more than 312%. So let's look at some of these other stocks that are part of this energy strategy. That's Marathon Petroleum. Valero is another large cap stock. This one still beats out the S&P 500. And yeah, a lot of these companies, you're only invested, between like 40 and 50% of the time. So these numbers end up being a lot higher. Looking at Occidental Petroleum, that's a big Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway stock. It underperforms a little bit here, but on the long term, it definitely outperforms the S&P 500 by a lot. And you're only in the stock less than half the time. So over these 5 years, you were invested for less than 2.5 years. So you can put your money somewhere else. And ExxonMobil, these are the stats for that one. So this is one strategy. When you subscribe to the energy strategy, you'll find out whether you should be in or out of these 4 stocks. And then on a daily basis, you'll be receiving buy or sell signals on whether to get in or out. And you'll only get a signal about maybe once or twice a week. Sometimes you might go a whole week without one. Because what we're doing is swing trading. And if you're not familiar with swing trading, let's take a look at that. So here's the stock chart for ExxonMobil. We were just taking a look at that over here. And a swing trade is looking for the peaks and valleys. So you could consider this a big swing right here, a nice swing up. And you want to capitalize on that. You would want to buy it at the bottom and sell it at the top. And the AI Trade Winner strategy tries to accomplish that as best as possible. It's never perfect at it, but it really does well. And here's a big swing down where we would be out of the stock. Here's another swing up and another swing down. And if you look at the swing down, you can see it goes from October 23, all the way to the bottom here, which is January 24. So that's 3-4 months right there, where you would not be in the stock because it's got a trend downward. You don't want to be in a stock that's trending downward. And the AI Trade Winner strategy makes sure of that. But then when you get back into the stock, you want to ride that trend upward on that big swing up. And you can see it starting to tank right here. It's not starting a downtrend. We'll see how the algorithm detects that soon. But that's what we mean by swing trading. It's taking advantages of these big swing ups. And when there's a swing down, we're out. We don't want to be in the stock. I'll go back and we can also see the rest of these strategies. Most of these strategies are high tech. We have chip makers, e-commerce, cloud strategy, internet winners. That's just an arbitrary bunch of companies that are doing well, and tech growth strategies for tech companies that are growing. But you can take a look at each one of these. Let's look at the chip makers. And NVIDIA is doing great. Let's look at something more down to earth like AMD. They compete with Intel for microprocessors. And you can see here that the numbers are just great. Over 5 years, if you followed the AI Trade Winner strategy, you'd earn 652% compared to the 84.5% of the S&P 500. And again, you always got to look at these days active because 46% of the time, you can have your money somewhere else, which can really boost this number up. The CAGR is great across the board for these. And on a 1 year basis, it still is beating the S&P 500. Looking at Intel, that has similar statistics. The numbers are a little bit lower, but still it beats the S&P 500 by a lot, especially considering you're only invested 51% of the time. Looking at TSM, they're also doing great, 513.8% over 5 years compared to 84.5%. And they're doing great this year too, with 54.1% compared to 23.1%. And they seem to be invested a little bit more, like almost 70% for this year, but the return's worth it. And NVIDIA's been doing great. You've probably heard all about NVIDIA in the news, but it's really taken off with this whole AI movement. Over 5 years, it's made over 3,000%. And just this year alone, it's at 135%. At some point, NVIDIA is going to start a downtrend. Like, it can't just keep going up forever. So AI Trade Winners will help you know when to sell. If you subscribe to the Chipmaker strategy, I think we're actually in NVIDIA right now, or we're in NVIDIA and maybe TSM, I think. We'll see that in a second. But when it's time to sell, because a downtrend starts, you'll know when to sell. So you won't be losing out on any downtrend. And you can go ahead and take a look at all these. They're all right now made up out of 4 stocks, and that'll be growing at least to 5 stocks. Once you subscribe, you can hit the subscribe button here on the other page. And you can see we're charging $8.99 a month to get buy and sell signals for a month for those 4 companies in energy. And then you can also subscribe to all 6 of these strategies for $49.99 a month. And there's a discount if you go yearly as well. So you can go monthly or yearly subscription on those. Let me sign in and I'll show you what happens once you subscribe. So I'm signed in and I'll go to the dashboard. And this top section is the daily changes. Now, most of the time, there are going to be no changes. These are the 6 subscriptions that I have. I'm subscribed to everything. But we can see that for Wednesday, tomorrow, you can see that it's telling us to buy CrowdStrike. If we go down and look at Tech Growth, you can see that it wants us to be in CrowdStrike immediately. Also in Tech Growth, we're in the Trade Desk, CrowdStrike, and Apple. And the one that we're out of is ServiceNow. And these dates tell you when you got in or out. So we've been in the Trade Desk since February 13th and so on. Like, we've been out of ServiceNow since March 5th. And we can take a look at some of these trades. Let's look at TTD and see what happened to get us in on February 13th. So here's the stock chart, and on February 13th is right here. So we would have purchased the stock right here around 71.56 or so, like right on the 13th. And immediately after that, 1, 2, 3 days later, it had a massive gap up. And even though it started coming down, we stayed in it, and it's been on an uptrend ever since. So the AI Trade Winners algorithm was able to detect that it's likely, based on the past many years of technical analysis and backtesting and, using artificial intelligence to detect the patterns, that this most likely will keep going up. And that's what happened. If we look at something that we're out of, like ServiceNow, we've been out since March 5th. Let's take a look at that. And March 5th is right here. So we got out right here at the beginning of March 5th. So what happened was we took advantage of this huge swing upward, and it started dipping a little bit. And then finally on March 5th, the AI Trade Winner algorithm said, you got to get out. So we've been out since here, and that was a good decision because it's been going down ever since. Let's just look at a few more of these. Energy, we're pretty much out of everything. Energy is not doing well right now. But as soon as the trends turn around, you'll know when to get back in. You'll do well on the next uptrend. But right now it looks like everything's downtrending. There's a big swing downward. We can look at something like TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor. And I just want to check. We've been in since May 7th. So May 7th is right here. We got in right here. Yeah, so it's been going sideways. Well, we had a swing up here, and then it's been going sideways. And right here is where AI Trade Winners decided, hey, it's going to keep going up. And it did. It's been going up ever since. And yeah, as soon as there's a downtrend, like let's look here. Like, take this downtrend. AI Trade Winners would get you out. As soon as the stock starts to show and prove based on backtesting that it's going to be trending downward, you will get a sell signal. So it's important to check every day. One stock we can look at is Netflix. Let me find it in here. Okay, so we've been out of Netflix since April 16th. Let's take a look at that. So April, what was it, 16th? Yeah. Right here. So we got out right here, and let me zoom in a little bit. April 16th. We got in here at the base of this green candlestick, and 3 days later it crashed. So we got out just in time. And one thing you're going to need to do is learn to really trust the algorithm. I mean, this isn't luck that it happened to take a dive right after that. It's really based on patterns in the past. And we detect those patterns, and you're better off just following the algorithm because you would have avoided this big downturn. Now, it did come back, which is great, but we're still not in it yet. We don't know if it's going to go up or down. So we're waiting for the AI Trade Winners algorithm to give us a signal, and we'll know when to get back in. Right now, if you look at Netflix, we're out. So that's the system. The most important thing is every day you'll receive this in your email. Most of the time it'll be no changes, but when there is a buy or sell signal, you'll know when to get in or out. So thanks for taking a look at this. We are looking for testers. If you can get on the system and look around and purchase a subscription, that would be great. You'll probably hear about this from me, Andrea, or Ryan. So just get in touch with us if there's any trouble or if you have any questions or anything. All right, thanks a lot.